In the top stories, young farmers taking part in Farmers Field School training program. St. Lucian citizen calls for calm in the case of a baby found in a school toilet, and French government implements stricter measures to fight COVID-19 surge. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Tuesday, the 7th of December 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, several young farmers are participating in a 6-month Farmers Field School training program, which offers them a platform to exchange knowledge and perform practical experiments, allowing them to develop their cultivation skills. The Agricultural Crop Production Training Initiative, which is being held at the Foy's Outreach Center in Newton Ground, is a joint initiative between the FAO and the Ministry of Agriculture. This week, the training focuses on lessons found in agro-ecosystem analysis. Since the health of a plant is determined by its environment, this analysis process involves small groups of participants collecting data from field studies, discussing the findings, and arriving at an agreement for integrated pest management, crop management, while using the information gathered as the basis for field management decisions. In an interview with the Ministry of Agriculture's Media and Communication Unit on Monday, Crop Extension Officer in the Department of Agriculture, responsible for District 3, Dion Weeks, said the training will see the implementation of more than 5,000 root and tuber crops that were recently procured by the government and distributed to local farmers who would then be able to grow the crops at their own farms.
We decided to put down a farmer field school project with some of the materials that we brought in, mainly Edos and Tanya, which we had to do some mini sets and cut them up to plant and so on. So we selected certain young farmers who haven't been involved in the crop before and decided to create the field school to give them an experience of producing the crop, and at the end they will be able to reap the crop and carry the crop to their farm in a different area.
Meanwhile, facilitator and crop extension officer with responsibility for District 1, Lionel Stevens, gave his perspective on the training and explained how the Farmers Field School contributes to the reduction of imported roots and tuber crops.
It's a project that the department has undertaken to try and increase our production of these root tubers, seeing that we import them heavily on a weekly basis, more so from the neighboring islands. This field school is an attempt to broaden farmers' knowledge of the production of these crops, and it will be undertaken here at Foy, which is an area where we receive quite a good volume of rainfall, so it's kind of ideal to aid in the production of these tubers. This is an area where we have an outreach center as well, where we do trials for different crops, and it's trials based on rain-fed conditions, knowing that the volume of rain that this area receives.
Stevens also used the opportunity to invite other farmers to participate in the ongoing training. Authorities intimately connected to cases of domestic violence and gender-based violence are noting what they've called a drastic increase in the number of reports made in 2020 and the first 3 quarters of 2021. During a panel discussion on Thursday to observe the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence campaign, Policy Development Consultant to the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, Iseline Phillip, updated the public on the statistics.
What I'm getting here from both of your contributions is that challenges that we're seeing is limited resources when it comes to government services being available in regards to not only legal aid but also within gender affairs to help support any victims or survivors who come in. And then of course, because of the change that we see in the legislation where we have to now go to the High Court, there's a cost to victims to have to actually seek justice, so that it reduces the access to justice, essentially, because oftentimes we see that individuals, as you say, maybe low income earning, on top of the fact that they have to support children, and so that does create a challenge.
Prior to the pandemic, counselors at the Department of Gender Affairs noted a shift in seasonal increases around Christmas time, Valentine's, and around Music Festival in June. While highlighting the statistics, some of the challenges faced by victims of domestic violence were mentioned.
So in 2019, total reports were 87, just 87. Then in 2020, when we started in the midst of the pandemic, reports increased to 359 for the year. That was last year. So we went from 87 to 359. That's more than 300% increase. And then just for this year, 2021 alone, where we know we experienced a lot of lockdowns and shut-ins, just for the first 3 quarters, that's the first 3 quarters, 443 reports.
Recommendations included increased resources and repealing the law that domestic violence situations have to be heard at the High Court. A proposed alternative is having them heard at the Magistrates' Court so that victims are spared the added expense of legal proceedings. In other news, the St. Kitts Basse-Terre Lions Club is celebrating its 42nd anniversary, and Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris has praised the association for its deep community outreach. In celebration of the anniversary, members, led by their president, Heather Grant, worshipped at the Antioch Baptist Church in Limekiln on Sunday. After the worship service, Prime Minister Harris said, quote, "Lions Club has been of service for some 42 plus years and going strong. It has a deep community outreach, looking after the poor and the needy. Its creed is that of service, and that, of course, is what we want for the nation. People willing to serve and to give to those who are less fortunate," end quote. In the 42 years they have operated in St. Kitts, some of their accomplishments include library projects in schools, diabetes awareness, donations and disaster relief contributions, donations of wheelchairs, back-to-school drives, the Kiddies Park at the JNF, outreach to the Children's Home and the Carden Home, eye screening in schools and Journey for Sight, medical and other assistance to individuals, the Camps bus stop, the Lions Roundabout, and hamper distribution. Moving now to news on the regional scene. A concerned citizen in St. Lucia is cautioning against a rush to judgment in the case of the recently discovered baby in a local school toilet. Nevis August says society is too quick to pass judgment on individuals in these situations, and he's calling for a more compassionate approach. Jason Darris of DBS News reports.
Concerned citizen Nevis August says greater measures need to be implemented to help those in need. August's comments followed the discovery of a baby in the bathroom of a secondary school in the north of the island. August laments that society has failed the individual or individuals connected to this incident. He says a more compassionate approach is needed when matters of this nature arise.
It's a very tragic incident, a very tragic occurrence, and one that brings to mind that at least there are 2 individuals who are hurting, and we must see to those individuals. It is a very trying time, I know, for those people. We must call out to them to come forward and to get to someone who can provide the kind of assistance and the kind of love that they truly need at this time. Someone that will not cast blame, but someone that will say to them, "Hey, I'm here for you. These are shoulders you can use. These are shoulders you can lean on, and I'm here to support you." Whether that individual is a teacher, our teachers are excellent. Whether some religious leader, a pastor, a priest, a counselor, someone. To me, that incident does spell out to us as a nation that there is a great need for individuals.
August maintains that often we are too quick to pass judgment when we do not have the full picture, especially when it comes to situations of this nature. Instead, he is suggesting a more level-headed and sympathetic approach, underscoring that an individual is likely hurting from the incident.
It worries me that one of the first things we thought of was that, oh, it's teenage pregnancy, and it's a young person, and it's a school child, and so on. And I'm saying, no, let us not rush to such judgment. The messaging that goes out there sometimes, it's really not the message we want, particularly for our young people. For example, some of the messages I heard was simply that, oh, well, abstain, and if you cannot, then use a condom. We should not throw this message out to our young people. We should say to them, abstain, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. And if you falter for one reason or the other, I am still there to support you. We can never say to an individual, have strong ideals, and if you cannot hold on to those ideals, then give them up. That is what we say by saying to them, abstain, and if you cannot use a condom. That is what we're saying. Have strong ideals and throw them out.
August admits that there are institutions that do outstanding work, However, individuals and institutions sometimes put out messages that confuse the youth, leading to further problems down the line. He encourages society to pay more attention to the youth. For the DBS News World, I am Jason Darius.
Still on the regional scene, Grenadians are expressing their views on the bubble at the harbour as restrictions are imposed on the unvaccinated entering the Esplanade Mall in St. George's when cruise ships are in port. Christina John of GBN News has more.
Grenada of the Seas made its way into the St. George's Cruise Terminal Monday, the day another restriction took effect for the unvaccinated. As of today, Monday, December 6, 2021, the Esplanade Mall will be opened and accessible to only fully vaccinated persons. And that's during the period that cruise passengers are present. Today, many were turned back because of their vaccination status. Mixed reactions at this announcement, as some persons attempted to enter the Esplanade Mall and were turned away by security guards stationed at the entry point.
I attempt to get in, and the guys, security say, you can't come in because you're not vaccinated.
Thank you so much.
We need in a country, in an island, to stand up and say no to this, right? It is wrong. That a foreigner introduces in our country, right? This is oppression on your people. This is no respect for the people of our nation. So I'm calling on the Minister of National Security, which our Prime Minister, to look into this.
One man sees this as having a negative impact on businesses patronized mostly by locals.
I think it's a kind of way of trying to restrain the virus spread, but it's affecting people because the locals can't go in to buy ice.
Understanding the seriousness of COVID-19, some people are in agreement with the restrictions, citing this as a means of protecting the unvaccinated and believe it should be seen in a positive light.
So I want to say that's a good idea. The tourists who come in will use that passageway in the Esplanade Mall, and there will be created a firewall between the locals and the Esplanade Mall. I think that would keep us safe. I am very worried, indeed, that we have opened up in the way that we have. Our economy is so constricted that we really must depend on these visitors. So I think that the health officials in Grenada made a very wise decision.
Christina John, GBN News.
Internationally, France will close nightclubs ahead of Christmas and tighten social distancing measures in response to the emergent Omicron variant of the coronavirus. But there's no need for new lockdowns or curfews, Prime Minister Jean Castex said on Monday. More in this France 24 report.
It's the latest attempt to combat the rise in COVID-19 cases. The French Prime Minister and Health Minister announced a series of new measures on Monday as France grapples with a spike in infections, but still decided against imposing a curfew or lockdown.
If the number of cases increases, it's not the same situation that we were in last year. The French are vaccinated far and wide. It's the case of 52 million among us. And that changes things. Time has not come for curbs, a curfew or a lockdown. It would be disproportionate.
Among the new measures announced, vaccination was a priority. For booster doses, over 65s will be prioritised, with no appointments necessary to get a jab. And the same goes for those who've yet to receive their first dose. Immunocompromised children can get vaccinated from December 15th, with aims to open the campaign to all 5 to 11-year-olds by the end of the year, pending the approval of health authorities. In primary schools, the response has been heightened to level 3 out of 4, making face masks compulsory from Thursday, stricter canteen and mealtime rules, and restrictions on high-contact team sports. The government has also called on companies to impose stricter work-from-home measures, urging 2 to 3 days of remote working where possible, saying that if businesses don't comply, it may just become the law. And with the holiday period approaching, the PM also called for people to ease up on social interactions to protect Christmas. asking for festive parties and social gatherings to be delayed until the 5th wave has passed. And whilst there's no changes for bars and restaurants, there were some tightened rules around nightlife, with nightclubs closing from Friday for 4 weeks.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are fair skies with a moderate breeze of 14 miles per hour from the east-northeast. The temperature for today is 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves not exceeding 6 feet. The weather forecast for today says it will be partly sunny in general with a 20% or slight chance of a brief passing shower. Tonight will be fair to partly cloudy and cool with a 40% or moderate chance of brief passing showers, mainly after midnight. Sunset today will be at 5:33 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:24 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.